Happy Sunday morning, boys and girls. It's your old pal, Andy France, the grand poobah of Judson Sunday School, welcoming you to another episode of Virtual Judson Sunday School. I am delighted to welcome a special guest I dug up just this week for this lesson. Please welcome Miss Bona Lisa. Bona Lisa, men have named you. Bonjour, Bona Lisa. Welcome to Virtual Judson Sunday School. First things first, I love your taste in hats. Besides being a Yankee fan, tell us a little something about yourself. Well, as you can see, Bona Lisa is a little camera shy this morning. I'm sure it's only temporal. What may not be so temporal is the fact that besides being camera shy, Bona Lisa is also dead. But not to worry. I have been boning up on Bona Lisa's life story, and I'm happy to share some of it with you this morning. To begin with, Bona Lisa came from a very musical family. She played an instrument in the high school marching band. Any guesses as to what that instrument might be? That's right, the trombone. But it's no surprise that music would come naturally to Bona Lisa, not when your mother was the great singer and blues guitarist, Miss Bonnie Raitt, and your father was the music producer and a pretty good singer in his own right, Mr. Bon Iver. Bona Lisa loves her parents' music, but for her, the greatest band in the world was, of course, the Grateful Dead. Bona Lisa's grandfather, who admittedly could be a bit sternum at times, well, if you've ever been to the movies, I'm sure you've seen him. He's that noted archaeologist and worldwide adventurer, Dr. Indiana Bones. And if you have been to the movies, then I'm sure you're familiar with Bona Lisa's uncle, the great and wise Boney Wan Kenobi. In her day, Bona Lisa was beautiful, or as we would say in Spanish, she was muy bonita. Like her famous grandfather and uncle, Bona Lisa was very smart. She was no bonehead. In fact, she often stayed after class to get extra bonus points. She was also honest, rarely told anything but the truth, occasionally maybe a little fibula from time to time. She was also, well, according to one of her best friends, parents, this one's just for you. According to one of her best friends, Regina Phalanges, Bona Lisa had a fantastic sense of humorous. Every joke tickled her funny bone. What else can I tell you about my friend Bona Lisa? Let's see. Oh, her favorite food? Spare ribs. Spare ribs. Bon appetit. What else? Oh, in spite of loving music as much as Bona Lisa did, she never went to her high school dances. That's because she never had anybody to dance with. Obviously, you can see her favorite Halloween costume, but Bona Lisa did not go in for scary movies. No, she just didn't have the guts for them. Otherwise, she was a very calm girl. She wouldn't let anything get under her skin. And she was very healthy right up until the end when she died of a sudden fever. Well, that's my good friend Bona Lisa. I hope you enjoyed getting to know a little something about her. We're going to get back to Bona Lisa a little later in today's lesson, but for now we have to say, bon voyage, Bona Lisa. Now, you might be wondering what Bona Lisa and all dim dry bone jokes have to do with today's lesson. And the answer is, not very much, except for the fact that before she died, Bona Lisa was a member of the human race. And today we're going to talk about several words, all variations of that one word, race. What does the word race mean? Do you remember from last week? We touched on this a little bit. We're not talking about an athletic contest, a competition to see which kid can run the fastest. Typically, when we talk about race today, we're talking about the color of one's skin. And here in America, the government likes to categorize people by their race as either white, black or African American, Asian, Hispanic, Native American, Native Alaskan, Native Hawaiian, or Pacific Islander. Now, this can be a little tricky because, as we did talk about last week, people come in all different shades of colors, everything from peach to mahogany. Plus, if you were able to convince your parents to buy you that big box of colors, the 152 crayons we looked at last week, if you look in there, you won't find Asian, Hispanic, Native American, Native Alaskan, Native Hawaiian, or Pacific Islanders. You know why? They're not colors. No. Racial categories aren't exactly based on science, but rather are arbitrary, which means they depend on the personal opinion of whoever's in charge of making the categories. For example, at one time in the history of this country, immigrants from Ireland, immigrants from Italy, and Jewish immigrants were all classified as non-white. I want to be real careful here, but have you ever seen anyone from Ireland? Now, all of these categories qualify as white. And in the 1800s, people who were categorized as Asian Americans, Hispanics, Asian Americans, Hawaiians, or people from the Pacific Islands, their categories changed 4 different times. Sometimes they were considered white, sometimes they were considered non-white, and back and forth. The important thing for us to remember is that when it comes to science, there is only one race, the human race. Our next 2 words, I forgot to switch this thing around, goodness. So there's our word for today, race. Our next 2 words are derivatives of our first word, race. We will take the E off, and we will add I, S, and M to give us racism. What is racism? Racism is the belief that one race is better than another. White people are better than black people. Black people are better than Asian people. Asian people are better than Hispanic people. That's racism. The idea that a person's color automatically qualifies them as better than people of a different color. Racism can also be a system in which one race controls another race. We call this systemic racism. Can you think of any examples in history of systemic racism? I can think of one right off the bat. The westward expansion of our country when the United States forcibly removed Native Americans from their lands, relocating them to reservations. The United States government, made up of white people, took total control of another race, Native Americans. Another example, and I'm sure you probably thought of this one right off the bat, was the institution of slavery, when white people controlled their black slaves, completely had total control over their slaves. That's another example of systemic racism. One more example might be the civil rights movement, because it was basically a fight to overturn a system which discriminated against African Americans. In the next weeks, we're going to talk about more contemporary examples of systemic racism. But for now, we need to check on another word. We're going to take off the M and add a T, and that gives us racist. A racist is someone who believes in racism, who believes and practices the idea that one race is better than another race. Now, let's turn our attention back to our good friend, Bona Lisa. Bona Lisa, Bona Lisa, men have named you. You know, I promised myself I wasn't going to do those musical flashbacks, but there's something about this girl that just brings it out of me. Take a good look at Bona Lisa, if you will. Look up close, take a good look at her, and I want to ask you this question. What race is Bona Lisa? Look closely. When she had skin, what color was it? You can't tell, can you? No, you can't. Did you know that right now, underneath your skin and my skin, we all look pretty much like Bona Lisa? We're all just bags of bones. In spite of all our differences, underneath, we're all the same. We're not white, we're not black, we're not peach, mahogany, Asian, Native American. We're all members of the same race, the human race. If we can keep that in mind, then we might be able to become our next word. I'm going to see if I can squeeze it all in here. I might have to shove it over a little bit. Can you see this word? Anti-racist. What is an anti-racist? Well, anytime you have the prefix anti in front of a word, that means it's the opposite of what that word is. So an anti-racist is someone who is against racism, someone who believes that we are all the same, that no one race is better than another. And an anti-racist will work to overthrow racism and systemic racism wherever they can find it. We're going to talk more in the coming weeks about racism, systemic racism, and how we can become anti-racists ourselves. So today's lesson on anatomy and racism was inspired by today's book. Let's Talk About Race by Julius Lester and illustrated by Karen Barber. I'm going to hold this up, and I want you to look closely at the pictures. Are you fans of Marc Chagall by any chance? Are you familiar with Marc Chagall, with all of the flying animals and flying people, especially flying fish? I think you'll find that Karen Barber must have been inspired by Marc Chagall with some of these beautiful pictures. So anyway, let's read, let's talk about race. I am a story, so are you. So is everyone. My story begins the same way yours does. I was born on blank. Take me, for example. I was born on January 27th, 1939, in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm kind of old, huh? How does your story begin? Many people and many events are part of my story, and yours too. The names of our parents and where they were born, whether or not we have brothers and or sisters. I had a brother who was 9 years older than me, but he's dead. What kind of work our parents do or did. My father was a minister. My mother was a housewife. Ooh, look at those flying fish. My story and yours have many elements, such as favorite food. Mine is fish. Hobbies. I like to do crossword puzzles, take photographs, and cook. Favorite color, red, or maybe green. But I like orange and purple. I think my favorite color is all of them. Religion, I'm Jewish. Nationality, I'm from the United States. Favorite time of day, night. Oh, there's something else that is part of my story. It's part of yours too. That's what race we are. I'm black. What race are you? Just as I am a story and you are a story and countries tell stories about themselves, race is a story too. Whether you're black like me, or Asian, Hispanic, or white, each race has a story about itself. And that story is almost always the same. My race is better than your race. Some stories are true, some are not. Those who say, my race is better than your race, are telling a story that is not true. Why would some people say their race is better than another? Because they feel bad about themselves? Because they are afraid? Because? But there are other ways all of us, even me, even you, think we are better than others. I'm better than you because I live in blank. I'm better than you because I go to blank school. I'm better than you because I'm a boy. I'm better than you because I'm a girl. I'm better than you because my dad or mom makes more money than your dad or mom. I'm better than you because I'm white. I'm better than you because I'm black. I'm better than you because I'm Hispanic. I'm better than you because I'm Asian. None of these stories are true, are they? I want to tell a true story, but I need your help. Here's what I want you to do. Take your fingers and press them softly against your skin right below your eyes. Be careful and don't poke yourself in the eye. Go ahead, do it. Okay, now press gently until you feel the hard bone right beneath the surface. Now, if your mom, dad, brother, sister, or a friend is close by, ask them if you can touch them. If they say okay, take your fingers and press softly at the same place beneath their eyes. Press gently until you feel the hard bones right beneath the skin. Now, press someplace else on your body, on your arm, chest, head. Press anywhere until you feel the hard bones beneath your skin. Beneath everyone's skin are the same hard bones. If you were to go outside without your skin on and without your hair on your head, turn the page and see what you would look like. Can you see these beautiful pictures here? But you want to know something? If I went outside without my skin, my mustache, and the hair on my head, what little I have left, I would look just like you, and you would look just like me. Just suppose one day we, I mean everyone in the whole world, decided to take off all our clothes and all our skin and all our hair. Then we would do what we do normally every day. Go to school, go to work, play and shop. Everything would be normal, except we would look at each other and couldn't tell who was a man, who was a woman, who was white, black, Hispanic, or Asian. Which story shall we believe? The one that says, my race is better than yours? Or the one we just discovered for ourselves? Beneath our skin, I look like you, and you look like me, and she looks like her and him, and he looks like him and her, and we look like them, and they look like us. When I look at you, which story do I see? Do I see only the color of your skin, the shape of your eyes, the texture of your hair? Do I look at you and think I know your story when I don't even know your name? Or do I look at you and wonder, what's your name? When were you born? Where were you born? Where do you live? What do you like? What don't you like? Gee, maybe we like and dislike some of the same things. Your race is not all that you are. My race is not all that I am. Yes, I am black. but I'm also a man. I am of medium height. I have a deep voice and a loud laugh. I love to laugh. Do you? I live in a big house in the woods in a small town. I like pancakes and macaroni and cheese and. Oh, there's a Marc Chagall look. I am so many things besides my race. To know my story, you have to put together everything I am. Like, I bet you didn't know I have asthma. Beneath the skin, we all look alike, you and me. I'll take off my skin. Will you take off yours? Let's talk about Race by Julius Lester and Karen Barber. Well, we've somehow managed to make it through another episode of Virtual Judson Sunday School. I want to thank you so much for being with me today. Until we get together again next week, I hope you have a safe week. I hope you keep a place for Judson in your heart. And on behalf of Bona, Lisa, and myself, bon voyage.